Gentlemen, let me ask you something. How well do you really understand the woman you're with or the one you're chasing? What if I told you there are questions so powerful, so exposing, that no matter how confident, honest, or open she claims to be, she will never give you the full truth? Not because she's malicious, but because these truths are too raw, too vulnerable, and too revealing for her to admit, even to herself. This is not about blame. It's about understanding, about empowerment. Because when you grasp these truths, you'll never look at love, dating, or relationships the same way again. Nen, this is a wake-up call. Let's dive in. Do you love me for who I am or what I provide? This is perhaps the most haunting question a man can ask himself, and her. The truth is, many men go their whole lives without truly understanding where they stand in this dynamic. When a woman is drawn to you, her attraction is rarely one-dimensional. It's not just about your charming smile or your sense of humor. It's about the package. Yes, your character matters, but so does your ability to provide, protect, and elevate her life. This is rooted deep in evolutionary psychology. For thousands of years, women have biologically been wired to seek out partners who could provide security, resources, and stability for them and their offspring. This isn't manipulation, it's survival. But here's the tension. In today's world, women are told they can have it all. Be independent, chase their dreams, and not need a man. And yet, biology doesn't lie. She may genuinely care about you as a person, but there is a part of her, whether she admits it or not, that assesses your value. Are you strong enough to handle life's storms? Are you ambitious enough to secure a future? And here's the kicker. She may not even be fully conscious of this herself. Attraction isn't a choice, it's instinct. So when you ask her, do you love me for who I am or what I provide? Her answer will almost always be, of course, I love you for you. And she'll mean it. But that doesn't mean it's the full truth. Why? Because admitting that her love is partially tied to what you bring to the table, financially, emotionally, or socially, feels shallow, even though it's not. It's human nature. And here's where most men get it wrong. They take this reality personally. They feel betrayed, used, or inadequate. But that's the wrong mindset. The real question isn't whether she values what you provide. It's what you value in yourself. Are you building your life, your purpose, your empire for validation? Or are you doing it because it's who you are? Women are naturally drawn to men who are grounded in their purpose. Men who don't need to prove their worth, but simply are worthy. The moment you understand this, you stop chasing love and start attracting it. You stop asking, does she love me for who I am? And start asking, am I becoming the man I'm meant to be? Because here's the truth. When you're walking in your purpose, when you're confident in your worth, the right woman will recognize that. She won't just love you for what you provide. She'll admire, respect, and cherish the man you are. And if she doesn't, then she's not the one. Men, stop looking for validation in her answers. Start finding it in yourself. That's the secret to breaking free from this question, and every other question you're too afraid to ask.
Were you ever truly over your ex when we started dating? This question slices through the surface of every new relationship. It's the ghost in the room, the silent shadow that lingers behind her smile, her stories, her pauses. And yet, when you ask her, she'll likely say, yes, of course, but psychology tells a different story. According to studies on emotional rebound and attachment theory, most people carry remnants of past relationships into new ones, dragging a corpse not because they're disloyal, but because emotional bonds don't dissolve on command. The human brain doesn't operate like a switch. It's more like a slow burning fuse. And when love has been deep, painful, or unresolved, that fuse can take months, even years to extinguish. Here's the true thing being over. Someone isn't a moment. It's a process. And that process often overlaps with the beginning of something new. When she met you, she may have been trying to heal. trying to forget, trying to rewrite her story. And you became part of that rewrite. That doesn't mean she used you. It means she needed you. But the emotional residue of her past didn't vanish the moment you arrived. It lingered in her memories, in her comparisons, in her quiet moments alone. Neuroscience shows that emotional memories are stored in the same regions of the brain as physical pain. So when she thinks of her ex, it's not just nostalgia. Why? It's a neurological echo. And that echo can distort how she sees you, especially in the early stages. She might compare your reactions, your tone, your habits. Not because she wants to, but because her brain is still trying to make sense of what went wrong before. Now, here's the part most men miss on. Her denial isn't a lie, it's a defense. Admitting she wasn't fully over her ex when you started dating would feel like invalidating what you've built together. It would feel like betrayal, even if it wasn't. So she'll say she was over him. She'll say it with conviction. But deep down, she knows healing isn't linear. And sometimes the heart needs to walk into something new before it can fully close the door on the old. But don't let this truth shake your confidence. Let it deepen your understanding. Because if she's with you now, if she's growing, investing, showing up, that means you're not a rebound. You're the resolution. You're the chapter that helped her finally let go. And that's more powerful than any clean break. So when you ask her if she was truly over her ex, know this, the answer will never be fully honest. Not because she's hiding something, because the truth is too layered for a simple yes or no. And if you're wise enough to accept that complexity, you'll be strong enough to build something real. Would you leave me if someone better came along? This question is terrifying because it forces both of you to confront the fragility of choice. It's not about betrayal. It's about value, about whether love is rooted in loyalty or in opportunity. And when you ask her this, she'll likely say, no, never. But behavioral psychology suggests that the truth is far more nuanced. Human beings are wired to seek improvement. It's not greed, it's survival. From evolutionary biology to modern dating dynamics, the instinct to upgrade, to choose what feels safer, stronger, more fulfilling, is deeply embedded in our psychology. Now, let's be clear, this doesn't mean she's constantly scanning the horizon for someone better. But it does mean that if a man appeared who embodied everything she's ever wanted, emotionally, intellectually, physically, her brain would notice. And in that moment, she would feel something she'd never admit to you: curiosity. Not commitment, not betrayal, just curiosity, because the mind is always evaluating, even when the heart is loyal. Social psychology calls this mate value assessment. It's the subconscious ranking system we all use, even in committed relationships. And while men tend to assess on visual and physical cues, women often assess based on emotional intelligence, ambition, and relational depth. So if someone enters her life who triggers criteria more intensely than you do, her brain will light up, dragging a corpse, not because she's unfaithful, because she's human. But here's the twisting: whether she acts on that impulse depends something far more powerful than attraction: integrity. Studies show that people with high relational commitment are less likely to pursue alternatives, even when those alternatives seem objectively better, because they've built emotional infrastructure. They've invested time, trust, and vulnerability. And that investment creates inertia. It creates loyalty that defies logic. So when she says she'd never leave you for someone better, she's telling you what she wants to believe. what she hopes is true. But deep down, she knows that if her emotional needs aren't being met, if she feels unseen, unheard, unvalued, then yes, someone better could pull her away. Not because he's better than you, but because he's better than how she feels with you. This is not a threat. It's a challenge, a call to rise, because the truth is you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. You need to grow. You need to evolve, because the man who keeps her isn't the one who fears competition. It's the one who becomes the competition, the one who makes her feel so deeply chosen, so profoundly understood that no upgrade could ever compare. So ask the question if you must, but know that the answer will always be filtered through hope, fear, and self-protection. And if you want the real answer, don't listen to her words. Watch her choices. A corpse, watch how she fights for you when things get hard. That's where the truth lies. Do you ever imagine your life without me and like it? This question slices through the illusion of permanence. It's not asking if she'd survive without you. It's asking if she'd thrive. And that's a terrifying thought, because we all want to believe we're indispensable to the person we love, that without us, their world would dim. But the truth, most people have imagined life without their partner, not because they want to leave, but because the mind wanders. It explores. It fantasizes about freedom, peace, or a version of themselves unburdened by compromise. And here's the brutal honesty. If she's ever felt suffocated, unheard, or emotionally starved, then yes, she's imagined a life without you. And in that imagined life, she might feel lighter, not because you're toxic, but because even good relationships carry weight, responsibility, emotional labor. And sometimes the fantasy of solitude feels like relief. But don't mistake that fantasy for desire. There's a difference between imagining and intending. Just like you might imagine quitting your job and moving to Bali, it doesn't mean you're packing your bags. It means you're human. You dragging a corpse, you crave autonomy, you crave control over your own narrative, and so does she. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking, the mental simulation of alternative realities. It's a normal part of cognition. In fact, it's healthy because it helps people evaluate their choices. It helps them appreciate what they have or recognize what's missing. So if she's imagined life without you, a corpse, it doesn't mean she's halfway out the door. It might mean she's trying to figure out how to stay. But here's the catch. If her imagined life without you feels better than the one she's living with you, that's a warning sign. It means something's broken. Something's unspoken. And if you ignore it, that fantasy could become a plan. So what do? You don't panic. You don't guilt her. You ask her what that imagined life looks like. You listen, you learn, because maybe she's craving more independence, more emotional safety, more joy. And if you're brave enough to hear it, you can become the man who makes her reality better than her fantasy. Because the goal isn't to be her only option, it's to be her best one, the one she chooses not because she's afraid to be alone, but because with you, she feels more alive than she ever could on her own. Want to go even deeper into this emotional minefield? I can unpack how this kind of thinking plays out in long-term relationships, or how to rebuild intimacy when fantasies start to replace connection. Do you miss who you were before you met me? This question isn't about nostalgia. It's about identity, about whether love has expanded her or erased her, because every relationship reshapes us. It alters our routines, our priorities. even our personality. And while that transformation can be beautiful, it can also feel like loss, especially for women, a corpse, who are often conditioned to adapt, to accommodate, to nurture, even at the cost of their own self-food. So, when you ask her if she misses who she was before you, you're asking if she feels like she traded her freedom for companionship, her ambition for stability, her spontaneity for predictability. And if she's honest, she might say yes. Not because you've done something wrong, but because she's human. And humans mourn change even when it's chosen. Before you, she may have felt wild, untethered. She may have had dreams that didn't need to be negotiated. She may have danced alone in her apartment, made impulsive decisions, or felt like the center of her own universe. And now she shares that universe with you, which is beautiful, but also heavy, because love, even the healthiest kind, demands sacrifice. But here's the nuance: missing her old self doesn't mean she regrets you. It means she's trying to reconcile two versions of herself: the woman she was and the woman she's becoming. And if she feels like one version had to die for the other to live, she'll grieve quietly, deeply, sometimes without even realizing it. This is where emotional intelligence comes in. If you want to be the man who keeps her, you have to be the man who sees her, who asks her what parts of herself feel dormant, who helps her resurrect them. Because the best relationships don't demand transformation, they inspire integration. They allow both people to grow without shrinking. So ask her, what did you love about yourself before we met? What parts of you feel neglected now? And then listen. Not to defend yourself, not to fix her, but to understand. Because when a woman feels seen, she doesn't need to miss her old self. She becomes someone even more powerful, someone who can love without losing herself. Want to explore how couples can evolve together without erasing individuality? I can dive into that next.